If you look around my office, you might realize I have kind of a love for dark, twisted cartoons. And a lot of that may be because I grew up with a lot of dark, twisted cartoons. Now, I'm not talking about the ones like Batman or ones that were meant for older kids. I'm talking about the ones that were meant for little kids, and they probably should have been made for little kids. And I loved the hell out of them. I enjoyed how much they scared me. I loved how every time you got through one, you felt a little tougher. So I'm doing a series reacting and reviewing them. We're gonna analyze how creative they are, how dark they are, and if the dark, twisted tone was warranted. So join me in taking a look at some Dark Toons. There's been lots of episodes where Ren always joked about killing Stimpy, but this time around, I think he means it more than usual. Stimpy's Fan Club aired in 1993 on Nickelodeon. While the majority of the episode is not especially dark, it does have the darkest moment in any Ren and Stimpy episode. Let's take a look. I should point out, by the way, I'm watching this off the Ren Stimpy DVDs that's called Ren Stimpy Uncut, which is a complete lie. There are several episodes that are not cut and restored back to how they were, but they had to cut out other scenes from other episodes in order to make room for it, so it's not entirely true, but it's still a pretty good set. So because the majority of this episode is not especially dark and there's only one major dark moment, I'm just going to talk about why Ren and Stimpy was so influential. A lot of cartoon shows you would not have today if it wasn't for Ren and Stimpy. SpongeBob SquarePants, Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, and so many others really draw a lot of influence from Ren and Stimpy. And part of that is that they went off model. And what that means is you look at Disney, like let's say Beauty and the Beast. You'll see they have these drawings that look very solid and very elegant, and that's very much on model. That means if someone wants to yell, you don't really extend too much off of what the initial model is. In fact, a lot of times they'll have statues, little sculptures of what they're supposed to look like so they can look at it from different angles. It's understandably a very well-respected art, but something like Ren and Stimpy constantly went off model. So unlike Looney Tunes, where sometimes the mouth would stretch or the eyes would come out or something like that, they made a big thing about not doing the same drawing twice. So if you look at Ren and Stimpy, you'll notice they always look a little different. If you look at other cartoon shows at the time, like, I don't know, Captain Planet or Tailspin or something like that, they're on model a lot more, which means that they look more realistic and move more realistic, but they're not allowed to go really big. They're not really allowed to explore what animation can do. Something like Ren and Stimpy goes the exact opposite. It's not concerned about being realistic at all. It wants to go big, it wants to go extreme. It really wants to push the envelope of what an animated cartoon can do. Now, this took a lot of influence from classic animator Bob Clampett from the Looney Tunes. Now, when you think Looney Tunes, you think Chuck Jones or Friz Freeling, What's Opera Doc, a lot of these great cartoons, but Bob Clampett isn't talked about that much, and that's because he really did more the crazy loony stuff that didn't repeat itself as much. Where with a lot of Warner Brothers, and especially Disney, you respect the restraint of how much they have to draw the same drawing and get that realistic movement. With Bob Clampett, it celebrated everything you couldn't do. Any big motion he would go for, any weird motion he would go for. If you were to slow down a Bob Clampett cartoon versus a Chuck Jones cartoon, you would notice the difference right away. Both styles are different, but both styles are breathtaking. They really deserve to be studied.
President.
See, like, where else would you see that face? You never see Ren make a face like that in any other episode.
People always love the stupid one.
It's gonna sound weird, but even that little bit of snot was just not seen on TV. They just did not show that stuff during children's programming. It's a little thing, you see it a lot more now, but back then, you just didn't. It's such a little thing, but it was very rare back then. Even something like giving Ren his spinal cord there, you can really see like his back poking out there. That gives him a little bit more vulnerability, so it's not that there's no structure to it, there is, it's just all exaggerated. And speaking of the internet, this really went viral.
I'll do it!
Now, it's around here that John K., the creator, was not having as much control over the show, and if you listen closely, you can tell Billy West started to replace his voice during this episode. So John K. still primarily does Ren's voice, but there's a couple times you can tell. It's very difficult, but you can tell Billy West's voice is a little bit more scratchy.
I'm sure that if you watch my show enough, you will turn out just like me.
Where John K. can go a little bit more throaty.
Nice to all those insipid little monkeys.
I can't think of anyone else who would replace John K. as Ren. Billy West is probably the closest voice. Wonderful bit of animation there. They didn't even have to move him much. They just moved the camera. Even that little touch, without the character moving much, just moving the camera can make just a huge difference.
Here's my secret. Every night, I wet the bed.
Again, something like Rugrats would have episodes about, like pee-pee and poo-poo humor and stuff like that, but with Ren and Stimpy, there was kind of this mean cynicism to it as well. Like, he's writing that he should be ashamed that he does it. You wouldn't see that in Doug or Rugrats.
I have written letters to everybody at your school warning them never to sleep over with you.
See, that's just relentlessly mean. I mean, just hilariously mean.
Dear Stimpy, I have a boyfriend, but he is always mean to me.
Now, fun bit of trivia, that's actually Melissa Fawn is her name, and this was one of her earliest voiceover gigs that she got.
Dear Stimpy.
Dear Stimpy.
Alright, this is where the dark stuff begins here. They cut to commercial, giving you time to not know exactly where it's gonna go. Okay, this is one of my favorite reveals in any Ren Stimpy cartoon, because here's the thing, you have the lead-in from the commercial with Ren starting to shake, you have this pleasant setup of it's night out, Stimpy's asleep, somehow they fit this gigantic bed into this mobile home, and it's slowly starting to pan over, and you're gonna see something like Ren awake, or maybe he's sweating, or maybe he's just looking a little uncomfortable. But what makes it so great is not only does the speed of the camera change suddenly from the slow pan to a very quick one, but it's the music and the positioning of where Ren is that just gets the biggest laugh. Here, look. That's... I die laughing when I saw this again, I die now. Because again, it's doing a very classic setup, but they just push it to the extreme, having his face so close to the camera where all you can see is his eyes and the wrinkles, and then just having that sharp bell. It's kind of exactly what you want to see, but you don't know you're gonna see. That's the real fun of Ren and Stimpy.
I was nice today.
And look at these angles here. Ren Stimpy always had these really fun backgrounds, but they rarely went really dark. And one of the great things about this scene is that they can really have fun with the shadows. I mean, look how far back Ren's shadow goes. It goes on the bed, to the wall, to the ceiling. I mean, they just really, really have fun with it.
My hands. Dirty.
I think the reason this is so funny is because while they do create an environment where a scene like this can happen, it's not expected. If you start off this episode with them reading the fan mail and Ren's put in charge of the fan mail, you wouldn't think this would be the direction it goes. So again, I don't think this would be as funny if it took over like 2/3 of it.
It won't come off.
Going back to Chuck Jones, he used to talk about how sometimes the background can do the talking for you. And Ren and Stimpy had great backgrounds in that they can do something great like him on the edge of the bed, but then you can just have like little dots that pop up as he's going crazy. Like he can remain perfectly still, but the dots in the background let you know he's in a bad place. And what I like about this scene too is the more crazy he gets, the more the animation quality kind of goes down. Like as he's losing his handle on reality, reality is kind of being lost on him too.
President of what?
Because there's few to no rules, they can get so many good angles. I mean, you can get an angle like that in, say, Rescue Rangers or even Batman, because there's just no rules to it at all. It's just whatever looks good.
Lying there asleep.
I love those. I never knew what those are. I just called them cockroach arms. Like he's becoming more like a bug.
He's a fool. Blind, silly little fool.
Now this is also part of kind of a collection of rants that Ren has. You saw something similar in Space Madness, one about his conscience where he kind of goes insane. There's another one in the episode with his cousin where he just fantasizes about how he's going to kill Stimpy and his cousin. So there's kind of a couple of these, but this one is the best known because it does go the darkest, I think.
I hope fate a million.
Again, it gets to a point you can just take out the background, and it's hilarious. It just makes it so much darker.
They think he's a god, but
He's as mortal as we.
Something the background artist would say. They would write back saying, we think you made a mistake. You said put Ren in it. We don't put the characters in it, right? And they said, no, that's what we want. Because they've almost never been asked that. Because again, in most cartoon shows at the time, when they did that, it didn't look right, especially if it's like a close-up of a character. But Ren and Stimpy embraced it because there were just very few rules. I mean, look at that. Look at the lighting. That's something where a background artist could really make that jump out even more than possibly a hand-drawn artist. Nickelodeon, kids.
One quick twist.
Man, you would not see this today, man. Great shadow work there. So kind of funny thing, my mom really didn't like me watching Ren and Stimpy. Again, people really underestimate how, I don't want to say taboo, but how much parents did not like their kids watching this. And she's just watching it, giving me this look as I'm trying to tell her, no, come on, it's a kid show, it's fine. But the saving grace was when, whatever that is, they never explain what it is, but that little hair that goes off and Ren starts screaming like he can't do it, kind of saves the day. So I said, oh, but you see, he couldn't do it. So it's teaching good morals. And she just kind of raised her eyebrow at me. And yeah, probably could have done without the fire. Scenes like that, it just makes it so much funnier because of the tone it started out with and the majority of the cartoon goes with. And it's just over a fan club. It's just over him wanting more attention. And it's, on the one hand, you can identify with the jealousy, but on the other hand, just is this the direction you thought it would go? I also have a theory, you just add fire to anything, it automatically makes it interesting. Try it, not real life, but in your story, just have someone on fire. See what it does for a scene. I might also be a pyro. Again, great contrast to that dark imagery, the fire, all that insanity, to kind of this nice sunrise.
This stupid fan mail.
And again, this is a joke, you can see it coming, you can already see the outline, what it's going to be, but you're like excited to finally see it when it's revealed, and it doesn't disappoint. And that movement, he needs an engine to operate this thing. That's hilarious, that's fucking hilarious.
I don't want any more of your filthy letters.
Now, this is something that's always a little tricky for voice actors to do. It sounds like that's Billy West again doing Ren doing Stimpy, and that's one of the hardest things a voice actor can do, like Bugs imitating Daffy or Daffy imitating Bugs. But what makes this especially funny is Ren is bad at it. Like, he can't get rid of his accent, so he has to do what he thinks Stimpy sounds like to his limited abilities, and I feel like that almost adds an extra layer to it to make it funnier.
Good morning, Ren.
Now, the few times they would repeat animation was almost kind of part of a joke. Like, that bit of him waking up saying, good morning, Ren, that's back to when Stimpy goes to Hollywood and he wins this big contest. You know something bad is usually going to follow. They did the same thing with the Christmas episode. Also drawing back to that episode where Stimpy goes to Hollywood and he comes back. It's almost the same animation, but it's a different outcome. So they sort of play with what they've done before. So even when they do repeat something, there is a reason behind it, and it makes the scene even funnier.
Dear Ren, it's me.
This is also just a great build-up to a wonderful punchline. I think some people can see it coming, but it just makes it all the more hilarious when you see him kind of digging his grave more and more.
Love. He says love.
That doesn't even sound like Ren. I don't know what that is, but that just makes it even funnier.
Stimpy.
And sadly, in some places, this part is cut out. Ren would just look and hear a donkey sound effect, but this is how it's supposed to play. That is light years funnier. Light years.
Big mean Ren. Crying like a baby.
Even this last joke is a repeat of a joke. It's the exact same drawing from Nurse Stimpy.
No one will ever know.
But at the same time, it feels right in this universe. It doesn't feel like a cheat. It just feels like the exact same people should be there at the exact wrong time as there was last time in Nurse Stimpy. The few times it does repeat, it seems intentional. It seems like it adds to the bizarreness of the world and kind of the cruelty of the comedy. So there it is, that's Stimpy's fan club. You really did not see scenes like that where he's thinking about killing Stimpy in many Nickelodeon shows, let alone cartoon shows. I really think it's still super funny, it's still super twisted. Ren and Stimpy always went for these weird, gross out, over-the-top jokes, but they rarely went dark, and I think that's why so many people remember this one so much. Artistically, it's very pleasing too. There's a lot of variety of shots there. You know, the scene before it, you have Ren answering letters, and it's mainly just one shot. I think that's to not only make up for the shots that were coming, because there was a lot of cuts in those scenes, but I think it also just adds to shifting the mood and making it more uncomfortable. Like you're watching something that's out of the ordinary for this show, to have this many cuts and these dark shadows that just make the joke so much funnier. I mean, that is so fucking funny. So yeah, whether you can see it on a DVD or wherever you watch Ren and Stimpy, whatever your hookup is, yeah, check it out, man. It's a classic episode. Hey everyone, I got a couple of these lined up. If there's any particular cartoon you want me to look at as being very dark or twisted, leave it in the comments below. Again, I'm not really looking for movie scenes or cartoons meant for teenagers or older. I'm talking about ones meant for little kids, but still scare the shit out of you. Whether it's an old cartoon or a new cartoon, let me know what you want me to look at.